energy suddenly began to appear. Depending on this energy, there has been a remarkable development in all aspects of life. But unfortunately because of it, a problem arose. It is that there is a very powerful monster that has also begun to appear. At that time, the army tried to stop her. But all these traditional weapons were of no use to them. Humanity's only hope was to rely only on those who were awake. To find all this monster and save humanity from extinction. He is a bastion of luck after generations of genetic evolution, so the possibility of an awakened person appearing among humans has increased, very significantly. At this time, anyone who reaches the age of 18 must participate in the wake-up celebration. He performs his power during this celebration. At this time, we are heading to the junior high school in Shanghai City. We saw a student named Zhu showing signs of fear and telling his friend that we were very worried and he felt that it was me. I will fail to awaken my skill. He was reassured by his yellow-haired friend at that time. He says, "Don't worry, because the percentage of students who improved on their skills last year was more than 92%. But unfortunately, at that time, Zhaobi gets more nervous. He says this means that if I do not awaken this skill, it will be a major failure, not even just an ordinary failure. At this moment, we head to our hero, whose name is Lahan, and the one who stands alone and talks to himself. He says the wake-up celebration that I have been waiting for a very long time has finally come. He then continues and says with all confidence while smiling, today he will definitely jump a good skill. Very much and will shock everyone in it. We return again to Zhao, whose turn it is to improve his skill. He is very happy when he finds that not only is he able to jump a skill, because he will also jump a very powerful skill. What level is the fire skill? This is where all university representatives shine. They keep offering him a very attractive offer so that he can join their universities. It's our hero's turn after that. The first person who says his name surprises all the students at that time. One of them wondered if this was the son of the trader who had obtained the Baraka skill before. You also wonder if this is the hack of the pull skill as well. Her colleague responds to her at that time, telling her that his father has the skill of parking does not mean anything. Need. Because in the end, he is still considered a despicable and traitorous person. Whoever hears what he is saying at this time is actually saying to himself what he is saying. This is all true. Because exactly 7 years ago, I was told that I was the son of a hero. But after that, when the monsters attacked our city, everyone was saying that his father had escaped without anything. He defends the city and fights monsters, basically. Because of him, there was a complete destruction in the entire Shanghai city. There were many losses in the lives of civilians and soldiers as well. After that, I was told here that I was the son of a traitorous person who abandoned all of his countrymen. But despite all this, I did not give up and continued my education because I have my father's blood running in me. Always love me. Because of her, it is likely that I will nudge a very powerful skill in my awakening ceremony. But he is shocked when he finds that nothing has appeared at all besides his skill. This is what makes him look at his teacher while he is very afraid and ask him what this means. Then the teacher replies to him, saying, "Your test is over, and you don't have any skills." Permanently, I was very shocked at that time by what he heard. All the students around him started talking about him, and they mock me. A student said at the time, "I never expected that he would not memorize any skills at all. His powerful father." Zor responds to her while he is dead from laughing and says to her, "Who told you that he didn't paint anything? Need. He is now completely useless, like his father." At this time, when he listens to me, he turns to him and looks at him nervously. This is what makes Zor very afraid, and he activates his skill and asks him if he said anything wrong. He also says that I don't think I made a mistake when I told you that you are really useless. He replies to me at that time, saying that he will teach you only one thing, which is that my father was never a coward and certainly not a traitor as you say. In this case, the teacher comes and intervenes and asks them to stop the argument they are having. He then directs the words to Zhao and says that even though you have awakened Mahara, but if you cause problems in the exam room, this will lead to your disqualification. He looks at him after that and says, "Unfortunately, there are no other classes today for students who don't know what show their skill. So, you can go home at all times." Why does he listen to his words and actually walk out of the examination hall, very frustrated, staring at the ground and everything? Students are workers who deserve it. In addition to that, most of the students who entered after him were all able to master the skill. Time passes with us after that, and we go to my place the next day. On this day, as soon as he enters his classroom, he is shocked to find students with books everywhere. The chapter is that his father is a traitor and he must die and pay the price of his father's sin. Then we see the student named Shen, who is the son of the general defending Shanghai City. We notice that he is holding the notebook and writing very bad words to my father on the patient. But in reality, why isn't he interested in everything they do? But the first time he sees Shane, he is wearing his father's championship necklace. He is very shocked and runs at him with all his speed and grabs him by the wayside. He shouts at him and asks him to take off this necklace immediately. It feels very itchy at that time. He tells him that if you had mastered your father's skill, I may be very afraid of you right now. And then he grabs him by the hand. He throws him in the air and hits him with a dead man, and it makes him flounder in patience. And he talks to him and tells him that you are just a failure. He pays the price for your father's betrayal, even though you are the son of a traitor to begin with. But they allowed you to study in school with us. In the end, you failed miserably. This is considered a very familiar thing. He gives me the time to be patient. And he leans his back on caution. He directs the talk to Shane. He says that my father and your father were colleagues in the army. In the end, how can you come and treat me like this? Shane gets close to him at that time. He is pulling his hair tightly. He tells him never to mention your father and your traitorous father in the same sentence together, because Abu Yana had defended this entire city with all his might. Unlike your father, who betrayed her at the first opportunity he got. At this moment, I realize that the necklace I am wearing. He holds it and tells him, I think this thing is what your father told you before he left. Then he pulls her by the neck. He tells him that since this necklace you took it from a traitor, so it wouldn't be possible if I shortened it now. At this time, he loses his temper. He goes and holds his hand and tries to open it to take it from him. But he doesn't know it all, and this is what makes him surprised. And he asks himself, what do you do with this power? At that time, he throws something away from him. He tells him that he is scratching you. I forgot to tell you that I already eliminated a skill. This skill is very powerful and of the A level. Killing insects like you will never be a problem for me. He then continues while scratching himself, and he tells him, where did your stubbornness go a while ago? Because if you want to get this necklace back and your beautiful father will give it to you. You'd better start begging me now. Whoever was here at that time, of course, could not bear it. He quickly gets up from the ground and runs at it with all his speed. Then he goes and jumps on his hand and gives it a very strong bite. And he says to him, aren't you? He said a while ago that I am stubborn. I'm as stubborn as I am now. Indeed, at this time, he let the necklace fall to the ground because of the pain he felt from this bite. Then why did he run so fast on this necklace to catch it before it fell to the ground? And it breaks. But then Shan intervenes and then holds him back and tells him that it would be better for you to return her to me again. Now. But of course, because he doesn't allow him to touch her at all, he keeps flirting with her. And he says while scratching, not only each other, because I know how to eat too. At this time, Shane loses his temper. He goes with a patient attitude, and this is what makes him fumble with her, and falls on the ground. But then he crawls because of the injuries he sustained and leans on the patient to get up. Same. He tells them that before that, I was Commander Long's son, so you were all afraid and terrified of me. And you always praised me all the time. But now, on the contrary, you still hate me very much. And you try to mock him and make fun of him every time you see me. He then turns to Shane and says, by the way, everything you said a while ago is true. Because I'm really just a useless person and I don't have any skill behind him. Then he continues, being angry, and he gets upset and says, but even if I am useless, I will never give up. Because I continue to get up well one day and tell you all that my father was neither a traitor nor a coward. He never abandoned the people of his city, as you say. At this moment, as soon as he finished his words, a red cloud appeared and he entered the pools. What is in it is the monkeys in his stomach all the time. This is what makes him feel a very strange feeling at the time. Immediately afterwards, a message appears stating that distinctive blood has been detected. For the host, you will also welcome him into the Master of Monster system. Here, another message appears for him to choose his own monster as an initial reward. Of course, those at this time do not understand what is happening at all. As soon as he presses the word confirm, the message disappears and 4 monsters appear in front of him. Why does he see them and is very surprised and says to himself that these monsters should have become extinct a long time ago, because they are from the bingo era. Then he wonders that if he chose one of them, the system would really give him a monster. No, he also keeps imagining that he is taking revenge on what is wrong with him because of what they did to him a while ago. And at this point, while he was thinking like this, he was surprised when he found that the system was giving him just a minute because, choose one of them. For this reason, he is very nervous because he does not know which one to choose. Exactly. But here, as soon as he sees the king of the beast, whose name is Q, lightning comes out of his bug, and he becomes very happy. He scratches his head and says, who said I wouldn't know how to master my father's pool skill? Then he repeats it and goes and chooses it all the time. As soon as he does this, a portal opens next to him, and water comes out of it in such a large amount that it leaves me. He drowns in it. But in reality, he finds himself able to breathe normally without any problems. But at the same time, he dies of terror when he finds his monster suddenly appearing in front of him and being huge. So much so that Lee is even smaller than his eyes. And here, when he sees this monster Q, he starts mocking him and says that these people are very stupid because they ruled the blue planet for less than 10,000 years. They consider themselves true monster masters. Simply put, if the true master of monsters appeared, the entire world would bow under my feet in awe of him. The Great One. He wonders to himself if this terrifying aura of his is the aura of monsters from the Banjo era. But before he could do that, he even finished thinking. He finds a vortex that appears around his body and throws him at a very high speed into the air. You take it out outside this water. Suddenly, Q also comes out of the water and makes him fall on top of me on his head. At that time, before he realizes what is happening, everything else disappears and falls from his head. Monster Q. And then he enters something similar to the transfer gates, and he goes back again to see what is wrong with him. Of course, he here is surprised and keeps wondering to himself if what happened a while ago was like that. Just a dream and nothing more. But the response comes along and he discovers that it was not a dream when he suddenly finds a message that appeared from a system in front of him, and I telegram him to choose Monster Q. And you know that the monster's egg is now stored in his space storage space. It surprises me at that time when he reads this. He says to himself, how can I now take care of this egg and let her hatch? He also wonders if she would be able to give birth on her own without any intervention. In this case, the message that appeared from the system suddenly disappeared, and he kept it for me and came back calling me with his voice. He tells him not to leave me alone and walk this way. At least he tells me how I can let the egg hatch. At the same time and on the other side, so that he can see what his workers are doing. He remains very surprised by what he says, and he thinks has gone crazy. But he talks to his friends after that. He asks them to stop now and take off their pants for him. He tells him that since you just swallowed this chain, I will take it from you from the other side. Lee was shocked at that time and told him that if you would do something like this, then you are definitely not a human being at all. But suddenly, at this time, a girl calls out to them at the end of the break. She talks to Shane and whoever is with him while she lives in her house and is satisfied with her. And tell them your actions are behind the school rules explicitly. As the head of the students here, I order you to leave this student and hand over your book. And be prepared to bear your burden. He looks at her about what's going on at the moment, and Hez scratching his head and Hez not afraid of her at all. He tells her that what we are doing is something that does not concern the head of students, so go now and get out. Class and you are silent. At that time, she consults the student leader on her street and tells him how something is none of my business because you clearly left behind. School rules must be followed now. At this time, as soon as she finishes her words, he immediately snatches the pen from her and keeps playing with me and him. It scratches you. He tells her, I politely asked you to walk, but you broke my words. That's why I'll make sure you don't write anything else. During this time, he is trying to reduce her pain. But suddenly he finds that this pain moves from his lonely hand and presses his neck rigidly. At that time, the girl tells him to consider this a warning to you and not to interfere in the duties of the student president yet. That's it forever. Shane at this moment would be surprised. He responds to her and tells her that I did not expect it. If I'm awake, you will appear here. But he goes and feels her pain again. He tells her, but you won't be afraid. Anyone here because we are all awake. Also, after that, he looks at her. He gets angry and tells him that he will relieve the pain. I want to let you know that the skill. What level is mine? So what? I advise you to keep yourself alone and not hurt yourself, because of a student like this. At this time, the rest of Shane's friends are occupying her, but then he intervenes and blows his mind away. And he says, how are you really such a despicable person? To get other people and get a girl. But unfortunately, here, and when he finishes his words, he is trained by the person who caught him with a very strong punch in the face, and he throws it on the ground and says, shut up. Stop the nonsense you are saying. Then he turns to Shane and says, you, in particular, will gather all the bullies in the class and let them all beat you together because you are just an idiot. A failed person. He also turns to the head of students and gives her an evil look, telling her that this will happen to you too. Exactly like him. The head of students at that time became very angry at his words and asked him if he knew what it meant to wake up. Basically. And you say that waking up is the last hope for humanity to be able to survive the era in which we live. In it currently. And it's not like you ever think that it's just something you use to be proud of that you got. With your effort. In this case, when he hears her words, he is shocked because he discovers that she really intends to kill him with a number. The people around her. He says to himself, this situation is exactly like the situation my father was in when he fought many monsters. Very inside the secret world. And here we go back to this girl, who gets up in the morning and flies her broom. Why did she forget that time? She takes his clothes off with it and hangs him from the ceiling. This is what makes him surprised that she is attacking him. And here he closes her by speaking to him. And you say to her, I'm sorry, but it makes you a little more attached, because the situation here will be very dangerous for you. At this time, what is the matter with him that is not waiting? They keep running towards her to beat her. But at that time, the student president would stand in her place on every track. At that time, many golden sparks appear around it. She tells them that I look like this. I must teach newcomers like you a lesson that they will never forget. Never. All the while, she goes to activate her skill, and at that time all the rulers and pencils fly away, around her. And you say to them, now I want to show you the meaning of true awakening. How? At that time, they would be shocked to find that Hotab Alkamil found them with these things. She tells him, I think it would be best for you not to move at all, and tell her that she will be greatly hurt. Meanwhile, when Zoe sees what happened, he runs and hides under the table. He calls Shane and tells him that he is afraid and crying, and we should never have problems with the girl. This is because I lack something very important right now. That is, this girl remains the genius who participated in the wake-up celebration when she was there. Only 14 years old. At that time, she obtained a magnetic skill called Salingo. He is surprised when he hears her name because he knows that name well, too. He says to himself, I just wanted to deal with the child whose name was that. Now the situation has changed and I am still facing this girl. At this moment, the head of the students stood in front of him and told him, if I put a little pressure on you too, it will turn into small pieces. If you don't want anything like this to happen, you should give up now. At the same time, I wonder why he found that this girl's properties window appeared in front of him. At that time, he was surprised when he saw her level and found that she was a whole level higher than the rest. Students. My father remains Commander Langer. And then you say that I advise you to give up now and not act like these foolish things. Never, because you know very well that the abilities of the awakened do not have any safety lock and accidents can happen at any time. You then look at him angrily and tell him to stay away from all this, because you are the one who started the fight here. If I kill you by mistake, Commander Lingji will have no reason to object. At this time, he started to completely free himself from terror and surrendered while crying. In fact, at that time, you left the head of students alone and said, since you understood the weight of a word, stay tuned now. I hope you will consider the lesson I taught you today is good. Because Sticky's behavior is childish like you, he could be dangerous to the people around him. After that, she activates her skill again and cuts a sum off the championship from his t-shirt. She says that the honor of the poor comes only from their willingness to face death and sacrifice their lives. Any time. After that, you look at him with a very terrifying look and tell him, if you understood what I said well, then say hello now. Get your books and go straight to the director's office. And Tab was afraid that at that time he and the rest of the students with him would become so nervous that they would lose their nerves and fall asleep on the floor. Then they quickly run away and carry out her words. Here, why was he so surprised? Because she was able to defeat them all and save them in less than 3 minutes. Just a few minutes. At that time, she approached him and asked him if he was the student whose name was Lihan. Why does he answer her and let her know it's him? So you remove the stick from the guard and let him fall to the ground. She looked at him with pity when she saw him in this state. And he left him and his cattle and his father's widow's sand. And you say, I think it would be better for you if you don't bring things that have nothing to do with studying here at school. Again, at this moment, he dresses me in the length of his pants and keeps thanking her. But she responds to him coldly and says that the school told the people who failed to awaken the skill. They go home quickly for their own good. By now, you should have understood this topic. I want you to try as soon as possible not to cause any problems with the people who are in trouble at all, because the gap between you in strength is very large. He understands her words and says to himself, she is really right. All I can do now is to rely on the system created by Walid al-Dahuli. Since I won't be able to stay awake and kill monsters directly, it's still a master. Monsters. Time passes with us, and after that we go to school for the same day, but at night. We see that the principal, Kalshan, and the person with me are cleaning the entire classroom and putting it in order again because of what they did. But here the students who live are not concerned about the situation. They tell him that we are the ones who should stay in school cleaning until this late hour, while the ones who are supposed to do these things are the poor students like him. He annoys them about what happened at that time and tells them to stop what they are saying and start cleaning. Now, then he says to himself, I just don't want to get into trouble with the girl whose name is Sodi again. Why do these girls go to me when they are being annoyed and talking to themselves? He says that I kept searching all day for any information that would help me, but I could not find it at all. In this way, information about animals from the Banjo era is very confidential. However, the last monster to appear from this era was the dragon named Zu. But at this time, when the regime appeared, we were envious of a very powerful force hidden inside the monster. So I have to try to find a way to let the dragon's egg hatch. Suddenly, while he was trying to find a knock in this egg, a message from the system appeared to him, saying, his first task is to make Kyo's dragon egg hatch. He knows that there will be a very good surprise after completing this task. Why is he happy at the time in the first place when he sees the system and runs to him to hug him while saying that has been missing all day today? But then he chooses this system window and bangs on his table. At that time, the regime completes its words. He says that the energy I work with depends very heavily on the energy of the dragon Q. That's why you must leave him in his egg name as soon as possible. He gets annoyed with his words at the time. He tells him in his secret that when you were about to die today, nothing was important to you because appear. And then he says, this is among all the books I felt in it. There is no information about how to hatch a monster egg from the bingo era. He responds to the regime and tells him that this is certainly normal, because the entire human life cycle does not last longer, for 10,000 years. Unlike the life cycle of these monsters, which have existed for literally billions of years, only one monster egg hatches between 5 and 6 million. Yeah, he is shocked at that time when he hears this number and says to him, what do you want us to do now? You gave me information like this. He responds to the system again and says, certainly, those who rely on natural methods are similar. Impossible. That's why there is another method available that speeds up the process very much, and it is essence. Monsters. At the time, I was surprised by this method and did not understand it. He explains the system to him and tells him that the nucleus of this monster remains an essence compressed inside the whole. The energy of the monsters that is extracted from it. The main reason for the slow growth of Kaio is that the stability on the ground is very weak. Therefore, by using only the essence of the monster, we will be able to speed up this process. He interrupts me at that time and tells him that I now understand everything about the essence of monsters, but I don't know how to get one at all. He responds to the regime and tells him that in fact, I discovered that there are monsters in the house. You have it. He was very happy for me at that time and kept asking me to let him know where he was. Indeed, the regime fulfills his request and gives him his father's badge of heroism. And he tells him that he has become the essence of monsters. According to my belief, the stored energy is estimated at 10 million tons of energy, spiritual, which will be enough to speed up the axe process. Who is very surprised by everything he hears. He says to himself, since the time I was born, he has disappeared and all the signs have begun to appear on him. I carried this medal with me everywhere. I swore that the right day would come when I would announce his name. But Al-Hazan is unlucky today, and had it not been for the help of the head of students, I would not have been able to get the medal back. This is not mentioned at all. He then replies and says, sure, with my current situation, I'm not in a place where I can talk about defending my father's honor once and for all, because now I don't have enough ability to even maintain his good looks. After that, he takes the remaining medal out of the bag and addresses the regime and asks him to know how he can use it. He responds to the system and says that your storage space now cannot be stored in the monster. Q. That's why we first need to embody his egg. He makes me surprised by what he says and I don't understand anything. But then he finds that the system suddenly turns into a griffin and begins to draw an egg-like shape on the wall. After he finishes, he directs the words to him and tells him to go and put the medal inside this egg. Why does he agree with him when she finds him frustrated and asks him if what he is saying is serious? He says, I'm not convinced by your words because this drawing of yours is worse than the drawing of a child who has 7 years even. But in the end, he listens to his words and provokes him. As soon as he looks at his father's name for the egg on the wall, he is surprised when he finds it. You surprise him. I find that the wall begins to develop cracks in the place of the egg. I found him staring at the cracks and approaching these cracks to explore them. But suddenly he finds that the cracks grow bigger and the whole wall breaks and falls on him, and this is what leaves him. He prefers to scream out loud. When he turned again to see the wall, he was surprised to find a small dragon inside it. As soon as this dragon emerges from inside the wall, it disturbs the regime all night long and says why. The dragon is compressed like this, because it's nothing like what I saw before at all. In this case, he basically receives a message from the system congratulating him on completing the first task. He knows that he has finally received his reward. Why does he read the written words and talk to the regime and tell him that you seem to know how to change the subject? Zina, but let us see this reward first. Here, another window appears for the reward, which is the skill of tampering with which he can evade any monster by touching its lower jaw only. He is so happy about this skill and the regime tells him why you didn't tell him about it before. He responds to the system and simply says that this skill must be the monster you will attack in the first place. He remains below the level of his master. Then why does he get frustrated again? He tells us that I should have expected that nothing would come of you, with the wonderfulness in my mind. Meanwhile, the dragon says to him, KOH, and keeps pulling him by his pants. But they keep him away from him and say, it looks like you're trying to bite me or something. When he says these 2 words, the dragon finds workers circling around him at a very high speed. Then he goes and starts eating his egg. I am surprised at that time by what he does, but he thinks of something and says, I read before that monsters eat their own eggs to get calcium from her. So he walks and gets up and goes to the dragon Kyo and starts helping him eat. But suddenly he finds himself eating and stops, and the dragon begins to choke and is unable to take a breath. Then why did he keep hitting him on the back when he was so afraid and telling him that it would be better for you not to die? Now because I am lost and my father's name is on you. But at this moment, he also receives a message from the system telling him that he obtained development points because of that. Dragon Q ate his egg. As soon as Rick finished seeing this message, he was surprised by a lot of messages. Shabaha appeared and was surprised. In front of him also. Even from the many messages, someone thinks that the system has been hacked and hacked. Suddenly, he looked and found that there was an intense light emerging from the queue. Its size increased and some of it fell along it. At that time, why couldn't he take it and pray to the system quickly and wonder how his size had suddenly grown so large? That's it. Then he asked the system if he actually read his properties window at all. He tells him that you didn't seem to have read it because Dragon QS skill is devouring. And whoever is able to do so will transform anything he says into conveying development in order to grow in size and strength. He looked at me at that time at the Dragon Kyoha and was surprised. He tells me himself that this means that I am lucky because I chose a monster with this skill. But here he screams from the pen when he thinks and criticizes the regime. He tells him to let this dragon move from above me because the body is waking up now. But here, when he says that he does not finish his words, he becomes confused when it is appropriate for the doorknob and his mother to move. With his intervention, she sits talking to him and tells him what happened at school today. Because the teacher says that you participated in another fight. And at this moment, why did his mother see that the dragon was on my back? She dies of fear and cannot control her nerves. When she got up, he fell to the ground. But then he runs to her side and tries to help her get up. He says, no, don't be afraid, because this monster is special to me, and its name is Dragon Q. Then he says goodbye to Kyo and asks him to welcome his mother. Kyo is really talking and goes to his mother, but he gives her a very scary laugh. This is what makes her lose consciousness from fear and fall to the ground again. Lee is shocked at this time by Q's behavior, so he scolds him, quickly turns his face away from her, and says goodbye. On the system, he tells him to take the dragon and hide it in your storage space for this period until my situation is resolved. He responds to the system at that time and says, if I knew you before then, I wouldn't be able to store monsters in a space. Offline storage. But you were the one who did not listen to my words carefully. At this moment, why is he sitting on the dragon? We should be careful. And he says to himself now, I don't have any other choice but to hide this dragon in a faraway place first. I come back and explain everything to my mother at ease. But in these places, the dragon Q is basically a glimmer of light from the window. He was thinking in his mind to bend the iron grill in front of him and get out. In fact, he does not hesitate for a moment and starts breaking the window, holding the iron and carrying it, permanently. Because of this, it creates a very large gap in caution. This is of course what leaves me shocked and standing still and not believing what happened. No, some of them are even more shocked when they find the neighbors next to them in the apartment to see what happened. After they heard his warning voice and the big shower he had. And here it rains because he brings out the dragon Q from the hole he made in the precaution. He tells himself that if I don't walk now, everyone will know about Kyo. Then he turned to his mother one last time. He tells her, I'm sorry, but I will explain everything to you when I get back. Here a rider is riding on Q's back. He is developing at that time. They are both far from his apartment. But at this time, she runs after his mother. She is looking at the son of the hole that QD shortened. She continues to annoy him and insult him, and she is very fanatical. As for why he stayed, he was staying in the forest closest to him. He and Kyo hide there. He says to himself, I'm not surprised that my mother was able to recover quickly. Now I'm waiting for her to calm down the first one before I go back to explain to her what happened. He then turned to Kyo and tried to speak to him in sign language. He tells him, by the way, the regime said that you can be forced directly through food only. But here, as soon as he finishes his words, he dies of fear when he finds the regime suddenly appearing in front of him without any warning. And he says what I said is actually true because he continues to grow by eating things, which has a spiritual liberation. He then continues and says that now you will not be able to communicate with your monster. But don't worry about this at all, because when Dragon Kyo grows up in the future, he will be able to understand your words and what you want from them. It frustrates me what he says at that time. He tells him, how can you come out and fight me just to say something like that to me? The regime was hasty in what it said at the time, and he keeps changing this topic. He tells him that since you succeeded in the Dragon Egg Axe, Q, you have a new skill, Dragon Radar. He doesn't make me happy at the time when he hears this skill, because he knows that it may never be good. He sits and thinks to himself. He then tells the system, hey Tariq, what is the trick behind this skill? It seems that in order to use it, I am required to pay half my life or something. You will expect that it is not necessary at all, because you have never given me anything so easily. At this time, the system begins to explain the skill to him. He says that through the skill of the Dragon Radar, you can determine anything that contains spiritual energy close to you, whether the need is living organisms or even tools. The more spiritual the object is, the greater its size will be. Map. The goal of all this skill is to help the host grow Dragonq as quickly as possible. It is possible. Bendish this time when he understands this skill. He says, this looks really useful and very good, but let us explore it first. Then he looks at the radar and says that the big dot on the map belongs to the Tanikyo. And the small things around her are definitely the remains of the Buddha crust that he used to eat and curse. But now there is something strange, which is that there is even a large point on the map, bigger than Q himself. After that, he looks at another point, saying to himself, let's go and explore the point that is about Q in size. First, see what it is. After that, he turns to Q. He continues to explain to him with signs that when he goes to the structure of the thing that is in it, this is spiritual energy to gain experience points and force. But then Q looks at him in frustration because he doesn't understand anything at all. But as soon as he changes the way he explains it and includes food in the explanation, Kyo becomes very happy. He is so excited about this task that he plays it with Bissell. And this is what makes me feel that he is the one who looks at him with his frustration at the time. He tells him that all you are really thinking about is him. Just eat. Then a passenger gets on top of him again, covering himself with his own blanket. He says it's better that we disappear now. And here they both go out and are happy, especially for me, who is proud of himself and says, of course, I'm a very genius person to come up with an effective method like this that allows us to hide ourselves. After a while, they arrive in front of our son Kabir. He told me then, according to the radar, something filled with spiritual energy should be here. Unfortunately, when he reaches the entrance, he is shocked by the number of guards present at the door. This building, he wonders to himself and is disappointed if he denies that they even accept visitors into the interior. Meanwhile, DQ stays awake and looks at him very excitedly. But they warn him and tell him not to think that you will ever do anything reckless. But before he could finish his words, Kyo gathered all his strength and tried all his speed. He walked towards this building and jumped on it and started climbing it. Then why would it be surprising that this building did not collapse after Q did that? He says that it is clear that he used anti-disaster after the last attack of this monster that happened to him. Before that, Then the two of them continue to climb in the building until they reach the apartment that contains the spiritual energy. This is severe. As soon as he notices it, he concludes that this apartment might actually be a girl's apartment. But for this reason, he keeps imagining himself while Q is arrested, and it is written on the news that, "The son of the traitor, I will arrest him." He attacks the girl's apartment at night after he failed to wake up. Then he addresses the system and says that this seems to be the trick behind the skill you performed on Hanny. But in these times, while he is busy with the regime, Kyosha will be very comfortable in the apartment. So he gets up at length and runs over her quickly. This is what makes him shocked by what he is doing, and they try to stop him. He tells us that I asked you before that you do not act shamefully at all. But unfortunately, when he is unable to stop him at all, he falls to the ground and breaks something. In the apartment too. At that time, Lima doesn't care about all of this because he is surprised when he finds Nagbas' badge. The hunters fell sideways to the ground. At that time, he says to himself, most of the spiritual energy on planet Earth is gathered in alternative science. Its name is occult science. This knowledge reveals many treasures and very rare monsters. These things are what make worlds like this a very important place for the oppressed. They explore it and prefer to develop their level. For this reason, entry to all mysterious worlds is very strictly regulated. Before all countries in the world, even if the dispossessed want to enter it, they must enter it first in very many stages. Tests so that they can obtain the first entry permit. As for Shurad Siad, the Nagba that I see in front of me is his entry permit. Huashar Kingdom. It is said that every owner has the right to design his own badge as he wants. Be its own thing. He picks up the badge after that and keeps examining it and says, "This badge belongs to Selengo." As soon as he realizes the name he said, he is very shocked and cannot believe himself. He says, "Surely the system is what will bring me to this place." And then he immediately talks to him and says, "We have to finish this mission now, because there is no food here." After that, he speaks to the regime and is shocked and tells him, "What did I do to you that made you want us to die?" In this way, at that time, he became more careful with his mouth and told him that if you make any sound, you and I will be the snag main for dinner today. At this time, on the other hand, she will actually be talking to herself. She wonders if what she said to the student whose name was Lee was that he was not at all close to the awake people. Was it a little rough or not? But then she goes on to say that it will be for his own good because he is a very pathetic person, and he considers himself a failure. But the strange thing is that despite this level, he is very self-assured. Suddenly, at this moment, she heard the sound of the drink falling and she was crying on the floor. So you leave the bathroom immediately to see who is outside, but you know that they are running away. Indeed, but despite this, she can see the edge of his blanket. After that, we will go to my place. Why did he stay? And the one who is Q is caught from his clothes, while he is in free silence from the 40th League. As long as they are doing this, why do the workers vote? Because they are dying of fear. And the first thing he is jealous of on Earth is why he can't believe that he is still alive. Unlike Q, who is thrown away and very upset because he didn't eat anything. Here the system appears again. He says to me, "Congratulations because you were able to locate the spiritual energy that is on the radar. That's it. Task number 2 has now been activated." Unfortunately, the regime at this moment appeared at a completely inappropriate time, because they are both very fanatical about him. Why does he sit and yell at him at that time and say to him, "How dare you appear at a time like this, after your radar was about to kill us a while ago?" He responds to the system and tells him, "If I knew you, the radar determines the location and size of spiritual energy. But I didn't say that he would be able to determine for you what this spiritual energy would be. Other than that, all awakened people and monsters are born with spiritual energy in their bodies. That's why the two have almost the same energy and the radar can't tell the difference between them." At this time, he gets very angry with me and tells him, "But you are just a bastard, and you should have warned me why. Let us go to a dangerous place like this." At that time, the system tries to guide him and tells us that he is sure that the reward for the second mission will be something you like very much. Fatar, are you curious to know anything about her or not? Here the system shows him the skill, but why does he look at the other side and not read it? He tells us that I have known you for less than a day and you have already deceived me many times. How can I tell you this time or later? But despite all the things he said, he was also very curious and read this mission, and I find that it is supposed to bring Q to a state of irritation. When he comes to her reward and reads it, he is surprised because he does not know what the skill is. The Puri had the system then explain the skill. He says that usually the host is supposed to be able to see the characteristics of the skill only after he finishes the task. But there will be an exception this time to get you excited about this mission and make you able to see it. He understands why he speaks and reads the characteristics of the skill. And I find it written that he can take 30% of the abilities of any monster he has. For a period of time, he does it. He then looks at Cube in frustration and says that this means that I will take 30% of his stupidity. Also, in fact, I don't know if this stupidity would be considered a problem or not. He continues his thoughts after that, and he is very happy and does not care much about this topic. He says that if I actually took 30% of his shoes, then he would reach half a level. It thickens the blood and it will remain very strong. Then he takes out his cake and keeps stirring it in front of Q. He tells him not to worry, because through this cloth we will be able to enter the mysterious world with ease. Time passes with us after that, and they both arrive at a deserted place. Then he says why this is the most mysterious science close to us. After that, he looks around and says from the Fortress of Luck that this knowledge is at what level. Because of this, there is no guard over him and there is not even a single guard. He then turns to Kyo and tells him that this knowledge is inside all the delicious things that you would ever want. You eat it. They will also all be full of the spiritual energy we want. Kyo gets very excited at that time and the two of them enter this place while they are still hiding underneath their blanket. After a while of exploring, he told me that it was clear that this place had been a construction site before, but it seems they abandoned it as soon as the portal to this mysterious world appeared here. In this place, he feels Q reading and a snake present in the place. So he goes to consult Lily in her direction and finds that she is truly the gateway to the world. At that time, he asks Kyan that he should enter into it, and he directs the words to his son in his secret, saying, I am. Time finally entered the mysterious world. I hope you will see me and be proud of me in the future. Even if I have not mastered any skill, as long as the gift you gave me is with me, I will still go. The same way as you. I will also engage in the same battles and adventures so that the day will come when I will be like you and you will be proud of it. Significantly. But at this moment, as soon as he enters the world, he is surprised when he finds himself, a stranger, and those around him. Very strange insects. And he says to himself at that time, even though this is the lowest level of the mysterious world, it is different. Very significantly from the real world. On the other hand, when he sees you and sees his insects and the monsters around him, he becomes very happy and starts running quickly. He followed them to the point that he fell for me from his back. But he goes curled up in a rock and then falls to the ground too. But suddenly he gets up from the ground at his height and continues to collect himself, and this is what makes him laugh. I am surprised by what he does, and in a second he starts screaming a new scream so intense that he stops him from the intensity of the sound and says, You, why are you screaming like that? Then you will reply to you and his Peshawar will be with him at that time. As soon as he turned around, he was shocked to find a very huge monster standing and staring at him while he was looking. His tongue, a worker's toy, comes down from a bug because he is excited to eat it. At this time, why was he on the verge of dying of terror? But suddenly the system appears to him and tells him that you do not need to be afraid of him at all. Here he runs up to him and hugs him while he is crying and tells him this is the first time it appears in critical moments. What I really need you for. Now I want you to tell me how I can deal with this situation quickly. He responds to the regime and tells him that what you see in front of you is not a monster. No, it is a very old animal from an era, prehistoric and extinct millions of years ago. At that time, this animal will go to attack someone, but it will be able to evade its attack at another time. A moment. Then he lays down on the ground and tells the regime that he is afraid of a creature of this size and remains alone. Ordinary animal. Suddenly, he goes to look at the animal again, and he is surprised when workers find him pouting in a tree in front of him. But at that time, he remained standing in his place when he found that the tree had broken down and fallen in front of him. Exactly. He would say to himself at that time, if only this tree had fallen on me, because in my past I was leveled on the ground. Now, he then shouts at the regime and says, how can you say that a creature like this is just an animal? Normal. Because if I had not benefited from his attack a little while ago, in my time, I would have lost my entire life now. Then the regime begins to explain it to him and says that in the pre-human era, some animals entered. The mysterious world is wrong. But despite this, some of them were able to adapt to the new environment and survive for a moment. Because they continued to live in this world for a very long time, they must have accumulated large amounts of energy. Spiritual. Despite their enormous size, which you see, if the matter comes to the window, it will not enter anything. Something in front of real monsters. Why does this Asna turn on the radar to see and keeps laughing? And he says, in the end, this animal turned out to be just an unmentionable thing, because on the radar it appears as a very small, not even half the size of a Q. He gets more upset after that and says with confidence that since the matter is like this, I don't need to be afraid. Permanently. Then he looks at the animal.